I want to play for you some moments from two different Kari Lake interviews. Kari Lake, of course, the failed gubernatorial candidate who claims that she won that election similar to how Trump claims he won the 2020 election, but now she's running for Senate in Arizona. And this is one of the states that will determine the balance of the Senate come November. And in these interviews, there's a bunch of different stuff I want to talk about. The first clip, though, is, and I was happy to see this, the reporter asking Kari Lake the question that Kari Lake does not want to be asked, and she dreads whenever people bring this subject up, which, put simply, is the alienation by Trump and her of moderate Republicans, specifically Trump's constant mocking of John McCain, the late senator who is an icon, especially in Arizona. And Kari Lake used to also mock John McCain. She, because of losing in the gubernatorial race, realizing she lost, even though she says otherwise, because she alienated moderate Republicans with her election denying and with her get out of the room McCain Republicans sort of rhetoric, she realizes to win this election she can't do the same thing. But the reporter brings up the fact that you're still supporting the guy who is the most alienating to moderate Republicans. So here's this moment I'm talking about, then we'll look at so many other things.
But Trump doesn't abide by Reagan's 11th commandment. I mean, he does mock other Republicans.
There's a lot of never-Trumpers out there, and you have to wonder if the people he's mocking are truly Republicans. A lot of them are actually voting for someone like Biden. That doesn't make you a Republican. If you're voting for Biden,
no, I mean,
you're not a Republican.
Other Republican candidates,
Yeah.
That was never done in politics before, where you could belittle people the way Trump does. And his fans seem to love it.
But also, I think back when Ronald Reagan was president, other Republicans
like
didn't.
McCain.
Other
when
Republicans.
He made fun of him not being able to raise.
So that's where her stomach drops. Oh no, don't bring up McCain. And I know it's hard to hear, so let me sort of say what it is that the reporter's saying. And we'll look at this clip afterwards. She's bringing up the fact that Trump mocked the fact that because of torture, John McCain couldn't raise his arm up very high.
Was president, other Republicans
like
didn't.
McCain.
Other
when
Republicans.
He made fun of him not being able to raise.
That's not what he was trying to say with that. He was trying to say he didn't have the. He promised for 8 years that he would get rid of Obamacare and make it better. We would make it better is really what we need to do, right? 20 million people are on it. Let's make it better. And he was just trying to say he didn't vote for it. And everyone remembers that day when the thumb went down.
I know that Kari Lake is a good sort of performer, for lack of a better term, but that is a frantic Kari Lake. Let me show you again. Trying to sort of, no, he wasn't mocking John McCain. He was just saying that we should have gotten rid of Obamacare. I mean, we shouldn't get rid of Obamacare. We should make it better. That's not what Trump's saying. He wants to terminate the ACA.
Get rid of Obamacare and make it better. We would make it better is really what we need to do, right? 20 million people are on it. Let's make it better.
I'm going to really quickly pause your viewing of this video to ask you to subscribe to the YouTube channel by clicking that subscribe button to help us continue to grow.
And he was just trying to say he didn't vote for it. And everyone remembers that day when the thumb went down.
Let's go ahead and move on. Now, before playing much more from this interview and one other, I do want to play the moment just so this is all properly contextualized that this reporter brought up.
Obamacare is a catastrophe. Nobody talks about it. Without John McCain, we would have had it done. But John McCain, for some reason, couldn't get his arm up that day. Remember? He goes that like that. That was the end of that.
So, couldn't get his arm up, and then Trump, for our podcast listeners, sort of imitated him not being able to get his arm up whenever he put the thumbs down. Why? Because of torture whenever he was a prisoner of war. And that comes, of course, after this moment.
But Frank, let me get to it. He hit me. He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
Do you agree with that?
He's a war hero because he was captured.
Yeah, so that, again, is vile. It also is indicative of a broader truth about MAGA, which is that it is toxic for moderate Republicans and for these elections. And that's why we saw in 2022 people like Kari Lake lose and cost Republicans what otherwise could have been a red wave. And I was happy to see that, but that's what people expected, was this red wave. That's sort of usually what happens when you have a president of one party in the White House from 2 years before, then you end up shifting in the midterms the other direction. But we didn't see that red wave. And in large part, that was because of extreme MAGA Republicans. And that moment and others, and then Kari Lake's echoing of those sorts of sentiments that the moderate Republicans that supported and think highly of John McCain aren't welcome in this moderate Republican Party, that's what cost her the gubernatorial election. And so the fact that the reporter brought that up and she doesn't really have an answer for that disgusting rhetoric from Trump and about her thoughts on Obamacare are a little discombobulated, I think is a reason that hopefully she'll lose come November. Now, here's another moment where she tries to push the dishonest but such tired talking points about abortion.
The Republicans, so I think you need to figure out where you stand. When is it not okay to take the life of a baby in the mother's womb? 10 weeks, 15 weeks, 20 weeks?
Do you believe that most Democrats support
6 months?
the late-term abortions?
Well, I'm asking you, is it okay at 6 months?
I don't know. I never know what to say about this.
6 months? 7 months? 9 months? Because I'll tell you what.
Turn things around and ask the reporters questions.
I am running.
That's why I got into this business, so I wouldn't have to answer these things.
I am running against two people.
Yeah, it's always strange when the interviewee flips around the interview and starts interviewing the interviewer, as you saw there, where she's now pressing them on their stances. But Kari, you're the one who has flip-flopped like a crazy person on this issue. 1864 law, you were for it. Complete ban on abortion, no exception for rape and incest. And then you said that's not aligned with Arizona citizens, that it shouldn't be the law of the land. Then you said it should again. So we want to know your view. You're the one trying to become a powerful senator, not those people interviewing you in the room. And also, we don't have to go through it again in this segment because we've done it so many times in past ones. And I'm trying to be better about not diving into every single topic that I bring up in these sorts of conversations. But of course, the late-term abortion, fear-mongering, for reasons we previously discussed, is super dishonest. Those sorts of moments are medical crises, not these elective abortions as they like to assume. Then we move to a different interview here and take a look at her campaign message. When I was playing this out loud, preparing for the segment, I turned to producer Cole and expressed my outrage about this type of rhetoric still being, I guess, effective because they keep using it despite it being so far from the facts. What's the point of living in a factual reality if you can just, in politics, pretend like that one doesn't exist and invent your own?
And we met here in Arizona. We got married in Arizona, raised our kids here, and we're moving in the wrong direction. You know, obviously we have a wide open border. We have crime surging on our streets. Our economy is in the toilet right now. And the Democrats are voting to make things worse, and we need a big change.
So the border's not open, and the solutions to issues at the southern border are being obstructed by Republicans. We've talked about that too much. And the crime conversation blows my mind every time. Crime's not surging. You can't... What does surge mean? Presumably increasing at a rapid pace? Okay, so you're saying something, Kari, that's just not accurate. Crime is plummeting, or a less charged word, is decreasing rapidly under President Biden. And we're getting numbers already, as we talked about in a different segment, on just the beginning of 2024. So in 2023, we already got back down to pre-pandemic levels or lower. Now in 2024, we're seeing even more decreases in homicide rates at a crazy rapid pace. In Boston, more than an 80% decrease in homicides. Doesn't even make any sense. What? How's that happen in the first few months of 2024? So that's a lie. The economy, while there are economic issues, it is booming. And it's been booming in this stunning recovery that we've seen under President Biden. Address the issues, many that were exacerbated by the pandemic and Trump's mishandling of them, but don't ignore the stunning recovery. Next moment.
I didn't support John Kerry.
You never were registered as Democrat?
I registered for 4 years as a Democrat. And it was because we had two little ones at home, and we were watching as George Bush, started the war in Iraq, and weapons of mass destruction, we were told, was the reason we had to go in. Then we turned out that was a lie, and we were going to go into an endless war. And we took our chance that maybe this new guy on the scene would not before war. Unfortunately,
what do you think about Obama now?
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
Do you think he failed the nation, or
I do think he did. But you know what? You're spending a lot of time, Leon, looking back. And let me tell you.
Trying to get the context because
let me tell you where people are. I'm a mom. Okay.
Yeah.
we're struggling. I don't know about you. You might make a great amount of money here.
All right. And then going into what we've heard already. And, you know, this, I don't want to look back. I want to look forward stuff. She says this when she gets asked about the election. She says it when she gets asked about the fact that she sort of flip-flopped on her political identification, which fine, people change their views. That's acceptable, but interesting when you see these interviews of her with Barack Obama, and she was very different. Kari Lake, I can say. But again, all right, she changed her views. And she does it when she's asked about her flip-flop on abortion. So at some point, how do we know what it is that you stand for if we don't look back? And I am sick of two talking points from politicians whenever they don't want to answer a question, and they're sort of opposite. One is, let's not look back, let's look forward, which is silly because the way we can know if you're going to be a good leader is looking at your record, right? So that is inherently something that takes looking backwards. And then the other is they'll get asked a question like, are you going to accept the election results? And the response will be, I don't want to do hypotheticals, which if you're not talking about your record, then the only other thing you could be talking about is what's things that could happen hypothetically in the future if you were to get elected. What would you do? And so that's also a really silly talking point. But they're not super comfortable talking about her past Democratic identification. Here's the next moment.
Finally, LGBTQ community. Do you support this community and companies who are supporting the Pride parade? Is something that you support, or do you disagree with LGBTQ plus community?
I have many friends who are gay and lesbian, and I support them having rights just like I support every other American. That's exactly how I feel about it. What I would say about this, though, is I find it appalling that we don't have, I'd rather have a month that we celebrate veterans. You know, we have Pride Month for a month. We have one day to celebrate our veterans. And those people who have been willing to lay down their life, I think they deserve a lot more. And so I'm going to fight for our veterans. And
So asked about LGBTQ people, her response is, I guess she's supportive of some of the LGBTQ community because she just cites a couple of those letters. And then she says we need a month for veterans. Well, it's interesting she doesn't know that we have a National Military Appreciation Month, which is May. Kari, I want to celebrate veterans and those who are currently serving and have served too. And I think May is a great time to do that. We're doing that right now. But you didn't, oh gosh, you didn't know about that. Very interesting. Here's the next moment.
President Trump endorsed you before the governor election. Do you think that endorsement helped you or damaged you in order for you to win or lose the election?
I think
what would be in this case for the future election?
I am honored to have President Trump's endorsement. He's one of the finest men that I've ever met. Jeff and I know him.
You must know some horrible, horrible men if Trump's one of the best men you've ever met, the civilly liable rapist.
I know him very well. I talk to him at least once a week, sometimes more than that. Talked to him a couple days ago. Our relationship's never been closer. He cares deeply about Arizona. He knows we're at ground zero for so many of the big issues. And I can't wait to get him back in office to turn this nightmare around. We were all
Yeah, she says she's really close to Trump, but apparently he's actually kind of annoyed with her. So I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think of Kari Lake in the comments.